Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel again, TechMech Navneet, and now we are continuing with our learning for Microsoft Certified Azure Data Fundamentals, that is also called as a DP900 certification. And in this video we are continuing with the part 2 of our overall course. So I have curated this course, as I said earlier. I have curated the course in very simple terms and with the real life examples. And overall the syllabus said 4 parts. The first part we have covered in the previous video, and we are now going to see the part 2, which is relational data on Azure. So before moving further, again I would request all of you who all are seeing my videos, kindly subscribe to my channel so you cannot miss any such new update, new video. Whatever I'll get an update, I'll keep posting the videos. Hit the like button, please share it with your friends, colleagues, and to all who can get benefited of my videos, even the students who are just planning to join this IT industry or in cloud computing, and it's not required for anyone to be part of the IT industry if they are enthusiastic with this new age technologies like cloud computing and all. It's a good to have this certification. And many of times earlier I have also mentioned like you can get this certification for free, and how to get that, there is a detailed video in my channel, you can refer that. And now let's proceed with the content of the part 2. So again I'm just quickly going with the overall syllabus. So describe course data concepts that we have covered in part 1 video, and then the second part, which is also having a weightage of questions by 20 to 25%, we are going to cover in this video. So this video will be not longer than the previous one. The reason, the majority of the examples and reference that I took as part of core data, that was majority of those were from relational data. So just repeating the same again and again is, I don't think you guys will prefer that. So if you get any confusion, you can refer back to my previous video, the part 1, and here we will discuss what additionals we have on related to relational data. So let's start. So since we know what is relational data is the data which can be stored in row and columns, and the table facility, database facility which stores such data is called relational data, relational database management system. So now again I'm just quickly going through those things like how the data is stored. So relational data are stored in tables. Tables have row and columns, same as like a Excel spreadsheet. And the columns of tables are defined in advance. The overall representatives are called schema. We have gone through in very detail, like star schema, snowflake schema. Then quickly check what is table. So I have created a account table, this kind of data representation. So this is totally a junk data, means it's just a mock-up cooked up data. There is nothing to do with it with the real life. Just however, the references are from the from some comics and movies like Tony Stark, Bruce Wayne. Obviously they are the billionaires, and I was not able to find who is the more wealthy person, so I placed them the same way. Anyway, let's go back to the discussion. So tables we create the store single type of data, those are the relational data, employee orders, details. So this kind of thing, the whatever the relevance of the data is looks like, we create the name accordingly. And it is the best practice to every table to have a primary key, and it is also called index. So we'll discuss on index can be done on primary key, but index usually done on the primary key, but it can be done on some other columns as well. And also we in a normal life we call it as a ID, the primary key usually we call it as a ID. So here just more elaboration of this table. So I'm taking an example account. The account number is int primary key here. Primary key means this account number, there will be no duplicate record will present over for this one particular account number. Then the name, we are defining it as a string. Here it is. Then account type, again I am describing it as a string. Phone number, again, however phone number is not present, mistyped. I should be writing it as a balance, so that's a typo. And then the customer ID, so that is again, it's again a typo. It's a varchar, but I am using it as a foreign key for some other table. When we are defining some other stuff like the debit card or credit card details of these persons, then there, instead of writing account number, name and other details, we can directly write the customer ID of that one particular person. Since if you are storing the debit card details of Tony Stark, then in the other table of the debit card, we will just write that customer ID and then we'll give the reference of and then store only the relevant data related to debit card. So if someone wants to see, so check the name, so he need not to it is not required to store in the debit card, but a join can be happen on this two table, and then from there we can extract the name by looking back into the account. So next, as I said, indexes. So what is indexes? So indexes are the very first line regarding the indexes are used to improve the performance of queries. So let's say if you are querying in a database, and the database in a table, to be very specific, and the table structure is like it is storing more than 1 million records, and it is being updated day by day. For some reason the normalization has not done, and what is normalization, that is explained in detail in the part 1 of the video, so you can go back and check if you are confusing here. So normalization again is nothing, just like splitting the large table into narrow, less columned tables. So if normalization is not done and someone need to fetch the data and create the report on a daily basis, and in, let's say in the previous example, the data is taken by the account type, so how many records are there for the savings. Then in some other analyst is doing the check, who all are above the $1 billion balance, or who all are the who are the customers with the, let's say, 10,000. So it's all like at what basis analyst is picking up the data. So we can create index over that one particular column, so it will improve the query facility. So if without index, if you are querying and you are like giving some conditions, order by over some column, let's say balance, and index is not created on balance, it will take much larger time. While if you create index on balance and now you are hitting the query with sorting out with the balance, the performance will be really good. So I have just given an example for the, so it can be a common, it might be a common to query on manager ID, and it could be an index. So let's say an example. So there is a list of employees and their manager ID is given. So one manager can have n number of employees. So if a person wants to know the manager, let's say Tony Stark is how many reportees are there, maybe Happy Hogan is there, other persons might be there. So in the table A, if we create index, because we need to sort the data based on the manager ID, then it would be better to get the result faster. Then next topic, views. So what is view? So view is like a table. You can run a query and view the view. So how you see the data? Data is stored in a database. So usually you have some query facility, the data studio softwares. Like if you have the services, you have taken the services from IBM, IBM DB2, so they will provide you complimentary IBM Data Studio. Similarly, if you are on Azure Tables, they provide you a software who can connect the database using connection string, like connecting the ports, exact IP address and all. There are several factors and several methods to connect a database. However, that is a different topic, will not go in detail there. So but let's say if all the connection, all the connection are completed and you have this thing. So once you write a query is like is just your request to see the data in the way you want to see, so it will appear you in a similar way. But it's not always you need to you have to like go with the whole table. If you want to see like 4 columns out of it, so all the people who are here in like who all are watching my video and have the basic knowledge of SQL, they can understand it very easily. Like I'm just telling the very basics ABCD of SQL. So you can just, if you want account number, account type or customer ID, so you can have this 3 you can write to have this 3 column only. So it will create you a view that you as per your request. So that view is just a temporary representation. Maybe that can be stored in your system as a cache, but that the data is not stored at anywhere. If you want to store that data, that called materialized view. So your query result, if you have a facility to store the data, those are called materialized view. However, I found like in this course material, I never found a place where materialized view was very like explained in detail, so I am not going with that in detail. Then query tools. So I just talked about what is the query tools in the previous example. So query facilitator is like the portal. It can be a software, is a local software or online software who has the facility and the license. The licenses must be obtained. Like you cannot go with an open source software which is not complying with the database rules. And also it is not a safer way to use like undefined softwares or portals to connect to a very a database where like the sensitive data are stored. So those kind of things are called query tools, where you can write your SQL query and get the views. The views are again is just a representation of your request. And always views are, since we are talking about relational data, it will be in the form of row and column only. Let's move further. So now we will talk about relational data on Azure Relational Database. So what all are available to us? So however, I am just mentioning 4 here, but we'll go to the Azure Portal also and we'll check. There are several other services are available there, but those are very kind of interrelated with all of this. So if you are able to understand these 4, you are in a way you are able to understand everything, I would say. So first one is SQL Server in VM. So what is SQL Server? What is VM? So I'll just quickly go. I will just quickly explain the VMs. However, this VM in details is a part of AG900 certification course. So virtual machines are an instances which are the replication of a operating system. So if you are working on your laptop or system, how you are working, you have an operating system, and operating system instance will be created on cloud that you can connect through either on a portal, or maybe there are some middleware methods using like Citrix, and even like from Azure Portal itself you can directly connect to them. So inside that, those once the VM is open, that is exactly like your operating system, and you can ask like whatever softwares you need, how much compute power you are required, the RAM, the storage and everything will be provided you from the cloud. So that will be work as a virtual machine, that will be work as operating system, but not stored locally, but that is present in the cloud. So first it's like you opt for a VM virtual machine and then install SQL Server inside that. So that is a one of the method, and this is the one of the like most famous service that most of the people opt for. Then next we have SQL Manage Instances. That's another database, relational database service by Azure. Then Azure Sql Database. This is the like most the advanced and the simplest version. But however they are keep continuing with the SQL Server. Then you have Azure Database for MySQL, PostgreSQL and MariaDB. Since if you are migrating to Azure, earlier your data was in MySQL or it was on PostgreSQL or MariaDB, so they have created a service which is easily just migrate your MySQL, Postgre and MariaDB into Azure, and the storage will be same as it was earlier. Just your storage, your you have just migrated, your servers will be migrated, your storage will be migrated, but the rest of the services will keep as previous. So we'll quickly go in detail over these four. So SQL Server in VM. So SQL Server, if you opt for a SQL Server in VM, it guarantee the compatibility to SQL Server on premise. So I missed to say this line earlier. Yeah. So the why this is very famous. If you are migrating your database to Azure from an on-prem storage system, on-prem we have discussed in the previous video. On-prem is like you are having your data, your database and everything for hardware installed at your system, and you are connecting it with either internet or intranet. So if you want to migrate those storage, you don't want to keep maintaining the bigger hardwares and all. So if you want to store it in the cloud, it would be better if you directly have a VM and migrate it to the SQL Server inside that virtual machine. So here compatibility, if you have a SQL Server on premise, that will be easily deployed there, and you won't be able to you won't be seeing any functional difference. Also you manage everything, OS upgrades, software upgrades, backup, replication, like you would have all the power. Since you are just opting for VM, like you are going with the IaaS, infrastructure as a service, like you had the infrastructure as the local and now you just migrated your infrastructure to the cloud. However, we will go in details in upcoming like very soon we will check on IaaS and what is related other stuff like PaaS, SaaS. And also friends, I have created a separate video just explaining IaaS, PaaS and SaaS. You can refer from there. So these are some additional features for SQL servers in VM, like it puts the maximum performance out of CPU through expert tweaks. There is no limitation. You can it can support data up to 4 TB, and it's like pay for server and licensing, not per the DB. So if you are paying for the server and license, it's not like you have to separately pay for the DB. So you have to opt so I'll just give a quick update here. So if you want to create a database, first you need to set up a server, and inside the server you can have n number of tables and separate databases in that VM. So if you have created a VM virtual machine instance, and then if you are setting up the SQL server inside that VM, so the process follows like this. So you have to create the server, and you need to take the license for that server, you have to pay for the server, and inside the server you have to create database. So inside the servers you can create database as per your need. However, it, like if you have just a limited compute power in your server and you are storing too much of data, the performance will not be good. So in that case you can have another servers and all. So that's a different topic again, that is a part of AZ900. Here we are just focusing more on the data side, not the process side. Then virtual machines in, yeah, so since we are opting first for the virtual machine, so it's not like you have to go with Windows only. You can have Linux and multiple SQL Server options available: 2008, 12, 14, 17, 19, and then there are tiers: free, developer, web, standard, enterprise. Again, this tier part I have written here because it is supporting here, but this is you won't be getting any question in this examination. This is a detailed topic for AZ900 certification, Azure Fundamental certification. So I won't go in detail here because it will take like more than 30 minutes to explain what it is all about. Maybe I'll create a separate video for it, or maybe in future once I finish the AZ900 course also, like videos on AZ900, there you can take reference. And in the meantime, if you are interested, it is like you can go to Google, you can type tiers and the Microsoft pages. There are Microsoft learning pages, information pages for every single thing that you are listening here, so you can go from there, check from there. Then some, next we check some advantages for SQL Server in VM. So it is guaranteed to act identical as your on-premise DB, just I said earlier. No returning, no retooling. You don't need to do any retraining of your resources, like the person who is working. They won't be seeing any big change. It is just to how to connect. Earlier there was a separate method to connect to the database. Now they have to connect to virtual machine, and there they have to open the software. But working on the SQL Server is not a difference. So in a way we can say there is no retraining required and no further tool also required. So in a line we can say it's just a change in the connection string. So since when the database is there in your on-premise, the connection string, which include IP address, port and all, would be different. But now if it is moved to cloud, then cloud will, once it is moved to cloud, all these things will be changed and it will provided to you, so that will get changed. So you just have to update that in wherever you are from wherever you are trying to query. Then next we have SQL Manage Instances. So again, this is close to 100% compatibility. It's not 100%, but it is close to 100%. Fully managed service, 4 to 80 V course. These are some technical terms for database. A storage, but 20 is supposed 32 GB to 8 TB storage. And this is a kind of middle of Azure SQL Database and SQL Server in VM. So you can say this is an advanced version of SQL Server in VM, but little lesser than SQL Database. So here you don't need to manage the server. Microsoft will manage, and also the database engine software. Of course, it is compatible with SQL Server, and it's not a common option in my view, I would say, because as a data engineer or maybe database administrator, I don't think you should go with a SQL Manage instance if you have a better option as a SQL database. And if you are not so comfortable directly going with the SQL database, if let's say you had some database on premise, 100 people are working there, and if you think like moving it to Azure SQL Database will generate additional monetary loss for you in the retraining, and maybe some kind of business loss will be there, since some gap create in this knowledge transition. In this case, you should go with the previous option SQL Server in VM, and if you have a very good workforce who can switch over quickly, so you have the option to go with then Azure Sql Database. So that is why I am saying I don't see any big relevance of opting these service when you have a similar service and a better service. So next, go to Azure Sql Database. So this is in my view like as per my own R&D. I won't be saying like this is the correct statement completely, but as per my own R&D, I have found this service is a very best suitable for managing the database and most advanced as well. And but yeah, one challenge here, it is close to 100% compatibility, but they don't guarantee you the 100% compatibility. However, I did some hands-on, I didn't find any difference, but actually Microsoft is not committing it is 100% compatible with SQL Server on premise. And you have lots of options for provisioning and the serverless databases. So two new terms you are listening here is provisioning, provisionized and serverless database. So provision we have already discussed in the previous video. Provision is nothing but the setting of the servers, and here you see the serverless database. So once you see the term serverless database, my friends, there is nothing called serverless in this world. So it's like when you see a serverless, that means you don't need to manage these servers. You just opt for database, and automatically the relevant and the required servers will be applied by your cloud service provider, and in this case Microsoft will add required server to uh, your subscription to support the actual benefit you are opting with this cloud service. So you don't need to manage, buy or subscribe, but it will be added automatically, managed by cloud as per your subscription and other topics. So that is why it is being called as serverless, but it is not like the server is not present there. So again, the payment, how the payment can be done: pay per performance, pay per hardware, 2 to 80 V cores, 5 GB to 4 TB storage, and it is like very in terms, if you are thinking about the price, it is starting with just $5 per month. So even if you think the $5 is not is a bigger amount, then in managing the database, it's like pennies. If you are storing your data at your on-premise system, like $5 is nothing. You have to manage like a high cooling to those server and database rooms, because so many machines are working, heat are generated too much. You have to maintain 24-hour very high cooling, and the electricity charge for just running the air condition ACs are like $100, much more than $100 in if your machines are bigger. So starting with a $5 is just like a spending pennies when we are talking about the setting up the databases. Then you use a SQL Server engine underneath, designed to work in the cloud. Of course, you in this previous two, you will once you start working, that we will see is just a replication of on-premise to cloud. But with this one, I would say you will feel that I am working on cloud, not on any on-premise software. So it is easy to grow larger plans as you need to, like the elasticity is higher. So I won't go in detail for elasticity. Again, elasticity is a topic for AZ900, but quickly, elasticity is a automatic increasing the services and the power. Let's say if you are having a database and there are some end users using that database in your architecture, and the start of the month the traffic is very low, but in the end of the month the traffic becomes very high. In that case you need higher compute powers. So if you are choosing an elastic subscription, this elasticity, this sudden increase will be taken automatically. So Azure SQL databases are very compatible with this such scenarios. And here you would have more options like advisors to tune your database. Again, so we'll go with some more advantage and types. So once you are going with Azure SQL database, you have an option of single database. To it will allocate resources to a specific database, and resources here means the every single service that you opt in on any cloud service. Here, since we are we are learning Azure data fundamentals, so going forward let's call it as Azure. So if you are opting for any single subscription, like you are taking a resource, so you have a option to get allocated resources to a specific databases, and then the elastic database, when if you are increasing, it will allocate resources to the group of databases to share. Then the advantages, most compatible with SQL Server, as we talked earlier, you can scale easily. That was the major advantage. It's a more modern cloud approach. So actually you may imagine like I am very impressed with this one. So actually yes, I am very impressed. That is why I am writing extra words for it. So it is really modern. While you start working on it, you will feel this is a modern and actual we are doing the cloud computing. Then we have Azure Database. So when I simply say Azure Database, this is to migrate and store non-Microsoft databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL and MariaDB. So here also Azure manages the servers and software upgrades. You have option, you can move your existing MySQL, PostgreSQL and MariaDB to Azure, and the Azure database for this one will be able to replicate the system without any downtime. And of course the main point that I am pointing out here, it's complete with your legacy system. So legacy system, my friends, the one like you are using it for a longer time. Let's say in our schools, take example, if attendance was being done on registers, and now if they are moving to some software or some application, so we can say the registers are taking attendance over registers are the legacy system. So MySQL, Postgre, however, those are computer stuff, computerized thing which is modern, but inside the computer world those are legacy system, and the modern systems are this Azure services. Azure is adding other database engines, so Azure is currently working on it. However, I don't get any some reference like what else they are working, since seems like they are not giving any names until they get a success of creating such program, but they are keep working on it. For the time they are providing services for MySQL, Postgre and MariaDB. Instead of you hosting those and maintaining them, so Microsoft will be doing on behalf of you, allows you to maintain your existing solution and migrate it to cloud. So yeah, it's not just a movement of data, but if you have created some solutions with your data in the database, in this 3 database, that also can get migrated to cloud. Like if you have created, for example, I said earlier, so you have if you want to have facility of storing your query results, so you need to what you need to create, you need to create materialized view. So if you have created materialized view over this, so over this MySQL, Postgre and MariaDB, that can also be migrated here. However, this example is very basic, it's a very small thing, but the complex solutions can also be migrated. So next we will discuss about Azure Synapse Analytics, and earlier it used to be called as Azure SQL Data Warehouse. So this is a new name. Azure Synapse Analytics is a new name of the data warehouse services. And you might be thinking like, why I'm going with this much detail. So this detail is required, my friends, because the questions will be coming from here. The questions will be asked like, I have a 5 TB of the data, and I what service I should opt in. So in that case, you can see 5 TB is part of this one. So you have to opt for SQL Manage Instances. So maybe if they are asking, so I am okay with starting with a new database, and but I need a cheaper option. So then cheaper option, it is, I have mentioned here, you can see Azure Data SQL Database. Then you have to choose Azure SQL Database. So it's not a defined rule, but I have observed, I appeared this examination on 2021 July 1st, first or only time, because I was able to complete it in with more than 900 a score in the first attempt itself. So I found like 50% questions are coming as a data concept and the theory, and 50% are with the Azure services, the related Azure service provided for that part. So that is why we are going into these details. So I'll quickly show my Azure Portal. So my friend, this is the Azure Portal. So you can log in, even so if you are going to appear for a certification, you can create your account on Microsoft, and with that account also you can log in into this portal. You can start your free trial. You will be provided a $200 of free credit, and using that credit you can even opt for some Cosmos DB, SQL database, virtual machines and all, to see how actually it is working. So here at the 3 lines, I'll just click here, resource group. So resource group is a very good thing to know about cloud computing, but it's not related to data, but like the cloud computing more. So it's again a good topic to learn, but actually it is a part of AG 900 certification. I'll click on all services, and here I will go databases, categories inside the databases. So now you see these are the database services available. So I just talked about some. However, it's a total list. It's not only with the relational data. So you can see the Cosmos DB, that's a non-relational database service by the Azure. Let's back to our original discussion then. Next we will talk about Azure Synapse Analytics. So data used to be called as a SQL data warehouse earlier. It's an evaluation of past data warehousing, serverless, on demand, and provisioned. Provisioned means you don't need to set up the server. Since it's a serverless, means Microsoft will do this provisioning, the setting of the servers, and it is more designed for reporting and analytics, not for your day-to-day task. So I'll quickly explain what does it mean. So data warehouse is like go down of your data. So let's say if you are a shop owner, so you keep like 100 of products there, what customer is asking on daily basis. Let's say if customer is just asking for a food biscuit packet, to just take the biscuit packet, you don't go down to take that, right? Because you keep some of the packets ready at your shop. Similarly, you keep your extra packets in your go down, not for the daily use. If your daily sell is something about that, so if you have about 100 boxes, you can keep 99 boxes and 1 box you keep at your store, because customers are asking for it. So it is, again I would say, it's not like you keep all 100 at your go downs. So in case of data, just imagine you gave that biscuit to your customer, but another a clone is created at that time and remained at your shop only. So again, but you cannot sell that. So what will you do? You will keep that biscuit packet in your shop? No, you will dump that back to the go down. So here in the data also, we store the data in our SQL Server, Azure databases for our day-to-day use, and whatever the historical data and maybe in some other way of daily transaction and all, those are stored in that data warehousing. So next topic we have IaaS, PaaS and SaaS, just I said earlier. So again, this is something like the cloud services. So is a types. So on premise, these are the like the requirement to setting up a like a IT service. Out of this, the green ones are the infrastructure, and these three are part of platform. And if you are taking all as a single place, then all can be termed as software. So if the infrastructure part is only managed by Microsoft, then you are opting for infrastructure as a service. So virtualization you can see here. So that I was talking about the virtual machines, and middleware is the SQL Server. So if you are taking virtual machine from the Microsoft and manually you are doing the provisioning of SQL Server, then you are looking for an IaaS. And same if you are directly taking the service, the Microsoft themselves will provide you VM along with required SQL Server, then you are opting for PaaS. So this is, and if you are migrating everything, you are giving everything your cloud service provider Microsoft to do, then you are directly opting for software as a service. So this was a very high level, not complete detail, my friends. So I have already created a separate video on this topic, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS in cloud computing. This is the link that I will put in description box. I would suggest it's to go there and check and gain the knowledge, and you will be getting questions over it. It is, however, this is like this is the main topic for AG 900 certification, but the questions will be here also, because it's not like it is, if it is a part of AG 900, some part lies here in DP 900 as well. So I am skipping more discussion over it and requesting you to go through this video for more details, and moving further then. So query tools we were talking about earlier. So querying tools, what kind of services? So earlier we talked about what is query tool, what you can get with the query tool, why you need query tools. Here we are going to discuss what Azure is providing as part of query tools. So Azure Data Studio is the very first and very widely used. So as I said earlier, if you see a name Data Studio, it's like a fashion. Every single relational database management service company is creating a software with name Data Studio. If it is IBM, then IBM Data Studio. If your data is in Azure, it is stored in Azure SQL Server. Even if it is on SQL Server, not Azure one, then also you can query that from the Azure Data Studio. So it's a software cross-platform software to work with SQL Server relational data. It is available for Windows, Mac OS and Linux. Code snippet, source control, integral terminal, you have this control. The charting of the query result is a very good facility provided here. And open source and free. So open source means to say you can download it without having a subscription for it, but it is a safe, provided, created by Microsoft itself, and it's a free. Then we have SQL Server Management Studio. So this is a kind of leader of SQL Server management. So for Microsoft, this is the main query tool that can have like majority of the task can be performed, and majority of the tasks means to say the administrative tasks, means the managing the access and creating tables, deleting tables, everything, even those kind of things can be done through Azure Data Studio. But this is the one which is dedicatedly created for administration task, user management, vulnerability assessment, and also for the security features. It can import export DAC pack files. So this is like the kind of main crown in this query tool facilities by Azure. Then we have a Sql CMD. So it's like if you open a command prompt, a similar kind of here you will find a SQL CMD command line utilities. There you can execute your tsql statements. What is tsql? It's a kind of sql. We are going to see next about this one. You can stored procs, so stored procedures and the script files. One more term you are seeing here, the stored procedure. So stored procedure is like if you are doing some procedure on a daily basis. Let's say if you are running a complex query and the data you need on, if you are creating some report and for that you need the data on daily basis, and getting that data can be done using a complex query, even that is like running on pipeline. First some kind of process has to be done, then only you can run the second part. So you have a complete procedure listed down, so you need not to do this every day. You can write the procedure at one time and you can store to get that happening quickly. That we call as a stored procedure or stored procs. So that can be done on SQL CMD. Again, Windows and Linux options are already present, and Mac OS in preview. So you can have a preview of Mac OS, however it's not available completely. So next we are going to discuss about SQL. So if you are aware with the SQL, my friends, is better, because at least 3 to 4 questions you will be getting in DP 900 examination. However, these questions would be very easy, like from, if you know, then the first group by order by things are like much more than sufficient to appear in this examination. However, since this video is created for to focusing those people as well who are just entering into this area, they don't have any previous experience on and exposure. So I'll just go through this SQL quickly also. So SQL stands for a structured query language. So again, my friends, you may have heard like more than 10 times in my this 2-second video. In the first video also, like to get the data we have to run the query, we have to do the querying through some query tools and all. So when I say we have to do the query, actually we have to write the SQL. So how, that we will see next. So it was first developed as SQL in early 70, but it was changed, it had to be changed to SQL due to some existing trademark was there with this complete SQL name. It was first formalized in 1986 as SQL 86, and now it is like keep on updating since SQL 2019. So next 3 part that you are seeing in your screen is, it's a 3 kind of SQL. However, SQL are defined as like 5 parts. Somewhere I have seen as a 6 part also. I'm also in the plan to create a SQL video for beginners. There we will go in more details, but as per the Azure portals, the like the information that I have collected from the Azure portals, they are subdividing SQLs in 3 only. So there we have DDL, DML, DCL in like common world we call it as a DDL, DML and DCL. And DML, let's go one by one. So DDL is representing data definition language. So data definition language is like the data management SQL commands around a database structure like create, alter, drop, truncate, comment and rename. So and then data manipulation language DML is a command around the data manipulation. So select, insert, update, delete, log the table. So one thing that I will quickly say, when you see the DDL, DDL is dealing on the table level. So you can see create, alter, drop. Even if you are not, if you don't have a detailed knowledge of SQL, by name itself, the command itself, you can imagine it is something related to table. So we need to create the table. If you want to add some column or delete some column, so what we need to do, we have to alter the table. If you need to delete a table, we need to drop. If you have to truncate, means delete each and every single record, we have to completely empty the table. Then actually what we have to do, we have to do truncate, comment and rename also, like renaming the table. So DDL is on table level. This language and the commands which is used to manage the tables are called DDL. So this is my own definition. I won't claim that this is the correct definition, but this is the best way I would say to understand. And when we go to data manipulation language, here the commands you can see select, insert, update, delete. So actually what we are doing, we are not inserting table. If we have to create a table, we will go with the create table. So what we are inserting here then? So we are inserting data. We are updating data, because if we have to update the table, so then we have to alter the table, not the update the table. So here we are updating the data, like previously maybe by mistake some balance was written as a 5000 and now have to update the data by correcting it as a 4000. So what we are doing, we are updating the data, we are deleting the data. So if we need to delete the table, then we have to drop the table, but on data level we will be deleting it, and then we can lock the table. So however the table word is here, but actually while locking the table, what you are doing, you are actually diverting data to be entered. So every action related on data comes under data manipulation language, and every action on table level comes under data definition language. Then third, what we have, data control language. So grant and revoke. So this is on user level. So who can have this access to see the data, and maybe if let's say you want to revoke someone's access, then you can revoke the access. So access can be like read only. So in the previous video we have seen like we can have read and write both access, but what kind of access, those are granted, and related commands falls under DCL, data control language. So is it required for your examination? Yes, this theory is also required, a part of the actual basics SQL script. So you may get asked, so I have to drop an table, so what kind of SQL statement I have to write? So what you have to write? You have to write DDL. Similarly, if you need to insert 100 rows, so what kind of SQL query you are writing? You are actually writing DML. And DCL again, granting and revoking the access. So let's go to some query. Let's do some practice on the query. So I am taking a help from an online editor called Programiz, and thank you so much to this program, the owner of this online editor website, and it is really very helpful. I'll put this link on the description box also. So here they are providing some pre-created tables, and here you can write the queries. We'll start from scratch. So there is one table called customers, then there is a one orders, then shipping. So if we need to all the data from customers, what we have to write? Select. Everything start with select in the SQL. Then a star. If I am giving the star, I'll say what does it mean. So a star means all the columns. If I want two columns, then I'll give first column comma second column, and if I want to fetch everything, then I can give a star instead of writing all. And then from, and then we have to give the table name. So customers is the table name. And now it's, if this is some schema is also given, like if you are querying between multiple schema I already said. So maybe we can say this 3 table as part of one schema, and there can be other schema which is having some other table details. So if you are working and all are hosted in same server, then in that case we have to give schema.table. So I'll just quickly write here for your reference, schema.table if hosted in same server. But here it is just a kind of computer program which is representing as a SQL, which is replicating as a SQL and database. So it is not required here, and we are assuming that everything is on same schema, so we can directly write the table name. So select a star from customer, we will run the SQL, and you can see the customer tables is having 5 rows and the same result are coming here. Then what if I need to just see the age 22, then we can put the condition select a star from. So it's very easy, you can see even if you are seeing it for very first time. So where I would write age equals to 22, I'll close this script, I'll run this, and then I will get only 2 records which is really having age as a 22. So in the left panel I just realized they have given the table definition. The customer is having this much fields, order is having this much fields, and similarly shipping is having 3 fields. So now select a star from this one that I got. So this is like ABCD of the SQL. The SQL can be written for very complex way, multiple like common table expressions to get. So maybe in future I'll create a SQL for very from beginners, and we'll start from here until go to very complex one. But here I am restricting myself to only up to like the requirement of DP900. So now let's think about some little more complex requirement. I need to know, I'm just creating the question. So I need to know the maximum age from each of the country. So since you can see there is 3 countries given here, USA, UK and UAE. So I need to know the maximum age of the people from this, obviously from my customer database only, not from the actual census of this country. Then what can I write? Since I don't need all the columns, I just want the first name, or I want the first like the highest age from the each country. So I want to know the country, of course, and the maximum, the country which is the like the every country. Let me reframe my question. So I need to check the maximum age of the customers from each country. So I'll write max and maximum of what? Age. So then now I don't need this where statement because already I am giving a condition, and let's run the query. So it will fail. So country you can see, however, it is giving a result, but ideally this in like in your query facility, this query will not run, even it is giving some incorrect output. So actually I need to group it by, so group by country. Why? Because the data is for 5 rows and I need to group this 2 record into one, and have to group this 2 like the country of USA, and have to pick the maximum of age. Again I have to group this 2 record together and just have to find from this 2 only, not from all, because we are going with the country. So maximum age by the country. So we are grouping by the country. Let's say if 100 records are there, then we are grouping those 100 records together and finding the maximum age from that particular group only. So there I have to group by country, and if I run now, it will give me 3 results. UAE maximum is 28, and UK, from the data itself we can see it's at 25, so UK equals to 25. Now from USA maximum is 31, but I need maximum age first and 20 as the last. So what we can do, we can do order. So order by max age. So now we are ordering by age, doesn't matter which country it is. So even the 31 is coming from USA, this record should appear first, and the country USA should appear first. So I will write order by max age, and since I need the older first, so I'll write this, means in the decreasing order. So here you see the result. So now it is coming like that. So select a star, group by, where. So these basic commands in the example that I have shown you, if you go through such examples only, that would be sufficient for your DP900. So I'll stop this SQL here only, because this much is the requirement for this certification. But this is, again I would say, this group by, order by, it's like ABCD in terms of English literature. So SQL has a very vast technology. It is a very vast technology. It has very big coverage over the data. Coming back to our original discussion. So vendors. So who all are the vendors of this SQL? So one point you need to understand, it's not a common language. So each database engine has its own version of SQL that extends for a standard for its own purpose, usually to add programming elements. So for storing the procedure and all, whoever are providing you these services, they have a little their own version of sequels, and those are little different with each other. For example, I would say, if you have opted the relational database for IBM, and in that IBM RDBMS, if you are running the query and you want just 5 records, so for that you have to write the command fetch first 5 rows only. You have to write this complete string sentence. If you want to take first 10 records, you have to write fetch first 10 rows only. If you want 10 to 28 record, you have to write offset first 5 rows, offset first 10 rows, fetch next 10 rows only. In this way you have to write. While in SQL Server, if you want this 10 records, you simply have to write limit a space 10. So this is a live example. It's not a like coded example. It's a live example, that one change that I myself has observed. However, the command select, every query start with select in SQL. So 90% the structure is same, purpose is same, but there is a little difference in their commands and all. And in most of the time, those are not compatible with the standard. So since in this previous example, if you write limit 5, limit 10 on IBM, that won't work. Similarly, if you write fetch first 100 rows in the SQL Server, again the SQL Server will not be able to read that. So These change, like the differences or this versioning, there are some names given. So SQL Server, whatever SQL Server support, that's called T-SQL. So the example of that limit 5 is from T-SQL. And what Oracle uses, that calls PL-SQL. And PL-SQL is little advanced version of normal SQL. I'll say why. And then MySQL uses SQL, PSM, Postgre uses PL-SQL, PG-SQL, like that. So PL-SQL is like some OOPS concepts are there. So, using your SQL itself, you don't need a JavaScript separately to support any OOPS concept. So if you want to do some kind of further processes using your data, that can be done through the PL-SQL, while it's not possible in T-SQL. However, this is again non-relevant with our current course material. So they are not often compatible, that I said earlier. For example, yeah, PL-SQL command would not work unaltered on SQL Server. So with this line, I would say we have completing the second segment of the course, that is identify consideration for relation data on Azure, which is weighting around 20 to 25% in terms of questions appearing on the examination. And first we have went through core data. That was, there was a one video, but that was like divided into two parts, basic and then the core concepts. Hopefully you have gone through that video, and if you are watching this video for first time, then I would suggest first go with this one and then only come with this one. So even watching this video in the sequence would be helpful for you instead of just randomly watching. So next we will discuss about non-relational data on Azure in our next video. And again friends, please subscribe to my channel if you have not done yet, and share it with your friends. Hit the like button. Thank you.